Hi everybody, and welcome to my latest episode of Mrs. Mummypenny Talks. As per usual, we have got video and audio going out there, and I have a guest every week now. Oh, apart from book launch week, I did it by myself, but this week I have my friend, I always go the wrong way, my friend Becky Goddard-Hill, who has joined us to talk about all sorts of things, but predominantly her new book, which is out, will be out by the time this podcast comes out, even though we're recording it in early September. So thank you for joining us, Becky. It's so lovely to have you.
Oh, thank you for having me. It's very exciting.
Yes, this is very exciting. Now, Becky, we've known each other for a few years. I met you at the very first UK money blogger event, so I've probably known you for like 4 years. That's where we have our annual meetup, isn't it? And but you are a person who's had their blog for the longest I've ever known.
The longest time.
You
really?
Are the original.
Yeah. 11 years I've been blogging. No, actually, I think it's even just coming up for 12 years I've been blogging now, and I actually own 12 blogs to go with my 12 years, but only have 7 that are very active.
So Becky's one of these incredible people who does so much, fits so much into your life. It's quite amazing. And I put a tweet out yesterday about how I was feeling really overwhelmed with life, and you even replied to that saying you need to get rid of all the stuff that doesn't need to be done today.
Yes.
But
yeah, that's the key actually to me coping, I think, Lynn, with the things that I have to do. I make sure they're things I either really, really want to do or really need to do. And I try and lose the rest. And I try, because I used to try and be all things to all people. And I used to say yes because I didn't want to upset people. Someone say, do you want a coffee? When you work from home, people think you're always available, don't they, for coffees and things. And I go, oh, yes. And then I'd end up working at night because I took time out during the day. And it might not have even been someone I really wanted to meet with, but I would say yes to be polite and because I wanted to please people. So I'm much stricter now with myself about being sure what I want to do and what I need to do, and try and lose the rest a little bit.
Yeah. So tell me a sort of potted history of your life. Go back as far as you want, but maybe not talk about the jobs at university, hey, that we've already talked about before the podcast. But yeah, just tell us your background and how you got to this point of you're a full-time what's the right word? You're a full-time author and blogger. Is that what you say you are now?
Yes, that's right. I always say I'm a writer.
Right.
I think do you know why? When I started blogging, there were very few people blogging, and you're considered quite odd and geeky if you blogged. So I would tell people I was a blogger and they'd look at me glazed and they go, oh, what's that? Quite dismissively. So I learned if I said I was a writer, you got quite a different response, and that stuck with me, and it's a bit of a catch-all, I think. But I started off, I live in Nottingham where I was born, and I always loved writing, always loved it. And I took English as one of my A-levels. But my big love was art. I just love art. And in a parallel universe, I would be an art collector and have a little museum to showcase local artists. That's my big thing. So off I went to university and decided I wasn't going to go down the English route. And I went to study art history. But I had a car crash. And that ended that university career. I dropped out. I was all right. But I dropped out and started again a year later and took a degree in American literature in Essex. And I loved it, loved it. Reading, writing, it was my big passion. But what do you do?
What's your favourite American book then?
Oh, my favourite American book. I could go on and on. You could seriously have me here all day. But I love F. Scott Fitzgerald and The Great Gatsby.
I was going to say.
Oh, I love it.
Oh my gosh, I love it.
I know it's a bit of a cliche in terms of American, but beautiful
story.
Yeah, and I love E. Cummings and all the poets and the plays, and I thought it was fab. But I didn't know what to do afterwards, really. I love studying. So I went off to Hull and did a master's degree in social work, because for years, whilst I was at university, every summer I'd been off to America to work on a summer camp for kids with disabilities. And I wanted to do a bit of that with my career. I thought it was a great job. You know, I really enjoyed it. So I did a master's degree in social work at Hull University, and then came home to Nottingham, got married, and started working in a children's home. And for years I worked in this children's home for kids with challenging behaviour, and I loved it. I was their key worker, and I would write programmes of activities for them when they came to stay in our home. And that's where this love of inventing activities that were fun to help people advance their social skills and emotional skills kind of started, really. I ran the Duke of Edinburgh Award in Nottinghamshire for kids with learning disabilities, and we had the best time, but they learned so much whilst having fun about independence, sharing, empathy. And so that kind of sowed the seeds really for me, that it didn't have to be therapy that helped people heal or that helped people learn to manage their overwhelming feelings, but it could actually be play, and it could be fun, and it could be life that taught those skills. I think so often in social work, you're not called in to help until everything goes wrong, you know, and it's almost like we wait for people to crash and burn, and then we dive in and rescue them. And I think if you help kids when they're young manage their big feelings of anxiety, stress, anger and fear, and give them those skills, then they can survive the tricky times and they can be more robust and resilient. So I think get them young when they're receptive to these ideas, rather than wait till hormones are at play and peer pressure and life events come in and kind of burn them up, you know. So that was my experience of social work. And then I got hurt at work quite badly by a child who didn't intend to hurt me. He was trying to communicate with me, but he pulled my arm and he tore my rotator cuff muscle. So I was out for the count for a bit, and they moved me to training, which was great. I loved it. I taught groups of social workers for about 5 years on things like bullying, anti-oppressive practice, reflective practice, all sorts of things. And I loved working with these groups of social workers. It was fantastic. And then I had my babies, and my son weighed 3 pounds when he was born. Yeah, he was teeny tiny, and I was advised not to put him in nursery because he was very vulnerable. So I took a career break, and my work gave me a 6-year career break.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, City Council, fantastic scheme. And as long as I kept up with my professional development, they give me that time off. And before they gave me that time and I had my kids, they gave me release to go and retrain as a psychotherapist, and they paid for it. They were the best employers ever. And that took me 5 years, and I love that too. And so I combined being a mom with having my own very small psychotherapy practice and teaching baby sign language. And
you've always been a person that's done a lot.
Active. But then, Lynn, I really began to realise I did not want to go back to work. That for me, being at home with the kids was what I wanted. Yeah. And I thought, how are we going to afford this? Because I'd been the main earner, and I really didn't know how we were going to afford this at all. So I had this bright idea to write a book. And everyone said, well, it's not that simple, is it? You can't just write a book and get it published. But as you know yourself, Lynn, you can do this. If you've got the right attitude, you can do it. So I wrote a plan for a book on how to budget when you've got a baby. And I sent it off to 40 agents, 40. And they kept going, no. And then one said, oh, this looks interesting. There's a recession on its way, she said. I didn't know about this. I knew nothing about this. She goes, this book on budgeting will be fantastic. And she got me a book deal within 3 days with Random House. Wow. And I became my budgeting book. How to Afford Time Off with Your Baby, it was called. And what
year was that?
Gosh, that'll be about 12 years ago now.
So 2008 was a bad time.
It was. And what they said, and this is how I started blogging, the book deal was approved on condition I wrote a blog, because no one had ever heard of me. Yeah. And they said, no one will buy your book if they've never heard of you. Yeah. Start a blog now, and then when your book comes out in a year, you'll have an audience. So I started blogging, and I realised I could make money blogging. Yeah. I could be at home with my kids and blog, and it opened this brand new world. Yeah. So I've always been a writer, always interested in kids and well-being, wanted to be at home. So writing books about kids and well-being is perfect. Perfect. So that's how I got there.
So in the past 3 years, 4 years, you're just about to publish your third book.
That's right.
With another one coming. So the first book, which I've got a copy of here, it doesn't reverse it on Zoom as well. That's good. Create Your Own Happy. That was the first book that you wrote. So it's all aimed at children, and it's all amazing, practical, creative guides that are just gonna. I mean, this is aimed at little children, right?
Yes, 6 to 12-year-olds, primary. Yeah.
And then your second book was a similar concept but aimed at teenagers.
That's right. Yes. So that dealt with a bit grittier issues like peer pressure and body image, media literacy, that kind of stuff. So still about how to be happier, still about how to take control of your own thoughts and feelings and make your life better. But yes, aimed at teenagers.
Yeah. And that one's called Be Happy, Be You. And then your third book, which is out now as we speak, you got yay, Create Your Own Calm. So look at this. Let's do mine on this side. They're the same.
They are. I was very lucky to be given the same illustrator because she just does the best pictures. She's just gorgeous, you know. And she's worked on and the one that's coming out in February, Create Your Own Kindness. She's worked on that too. But look at her little worry monster. How to make a worry box. Isn't that cute?
Yeah, she did all the illustrations in the book.
It's so lovely. She just takes my ideas and translates them into something gorgeous, and it's wonderful. And I've never actually met her, but I feel like she totally gets what I'm saying.
Yeah.
And then comes back with the right image or the right graphic. It's amazing. I think it's a good match. Yeah.
Yeah. So you just touched on book 4 then. So you've got another book coming out in February, which is Create Your Own Kindness.
Yeah.
And it's like whatever is the state of the nation, you can almost like create a book around that feeling or that emotion.
Yeah. Well, the kindness one's actually it's very dear to my heart because in my past, I've lost a couple of cousins to suicide, 3 cousins to suicide.
Wow.
And all male, and just heartbreaking for their families. And I think we need to teach kids when they're very young to really be kind to themselves, to forgive themselves when they make mistakes, because we all make mistakes, not to hurt themselves if they're hurting, but to tell other people and get help. So it's actually, the activities are all quite fun and creative, but my feelings behind it are really quite serious. I think kids need to know to be kind to themselves. We try and make kids be good, don't we, all the time? We tell them to be good and to behave. And the worry is when we set these high standards, when they fall short, that they're going to end up really disliking themselves or feeling like they're failures, you know. And I think it's really important that self-care is absolutely, you know, in their heads from being very, very young, and that they don't need to be perfect at all, and that it's okay when things go wrong. People will help you. And so that's the meaning behind that one, really, for me. I want them to be kind to themselves. So it like all the books, it's about being kind to yourself, kind to other people, and kind to the world. And the Calm book, similar. It's about being able to calm yourself down when things are overwhelming, but also how to have calmer relationships. So there's activities about how to get on better with your parents and how to keep calm at school, you know. And there's stuff about putting calm out into the world. There's one little activity where we encourage the kids to write calm words on stones and just go and place them out in the community. So when people pick them up, it might just say breathe on it or peace. But words are really powerful, and sometimes just seeing a word can give us that feeling because we're focusing on it, aren't we? And it's coming to our heads. So yeah, it's teaching them to think about themselves, but also other people and the wider world.
Yeah, but so I'm a mum of 3 boys. You've got 2. You've got a girl and a boy, haven't you?
A girl and a boy, yes.
Yours are a little bit old. They're older now, aren't they? They're
16 and 13, yeah.
Oh gosh, you've got 2 teenagers. When my boys are 12, 10 and 7. And like regular listeners of my podcast, and everybody knows that I've gone through a divorce this year, and my poor children, they're going through a really, really tough time. And what I was going to say was, our job as a mum, our job, anybody listening as a mum or a dad, is you just want the best for your children, right? And you want to bring them up in the best possible way. But nobody's taught me how to bring up my children, how to bring them up in a happy way or a calm way or a kind way. So I just think sometimes we need a bit of a hand as a parent. And
Definitely.
your books are just, I mean they're beautiful books, but it's almost like helping children through play and through crafting things and activities.
Yeah.
It's not like read this book, do these exercises, talk about these things, because children, I certainly know my children, particularly my middle son, he doesn't want to talk about anything.
No. And they're not going to want to think their parents are I can't say the word, but therapizing them, if you know what I mean. Nobody wants to think that. But if you can leave the book around for them to read a little bit behind it, or if whilst you're doing the gardening with them, you say, did you know there's microbes in soil that can actually make you feel less depressed? I think that's amazing. And just drop in the little bits of understanding why these activities work. It'll get them. But yeah, kids don't want to feel that they're being done to, but actually they might sit and colour the mandala, one of the activities in the book, and realise that actually that's deeply relaxing. And all you've done is leave out a print out of a mandala and some pens on the side whilst you're cooking, and they sat down and started colouring, and you'll say, oh, do you know, I did one of them earlier, that felt really relaxing to me, what about you? You know, it's just invitations, isn't it? Invitations to them and making things accessible. And some activities will really resonate with some kids who are maybe very physical. They might really like the breathing exercises or the yoga, for example, or the progressive muscle relaxation where they clench bits of the body and then let it go. But other kids who are more arty might like to create a worry box themselves or a calm down jar. And kids who are perhaps more reflective might like the exercises where they have to, multiple choice. What would you do in this situation? And think things through. So hopefully with there being 50 activities, there's something for every child and for every kind of interest, because we all learn totally differently, don't we?
Yeah. And also I think an incredibly useful resource for adults as well, because most of us adults, I mean, I'm very open to therapy, and I've had so much therapy in my adult life, and I've had therapy this year just to get through like what's happened. But so I'm quite receptive to it. But a lot of people, therapy is a privilege for a start. It's you either wait 6 to 9 months for it on the NHS, or you pay for it.
That's right. Yeah.
So I think there's a lot of tools in here that like adults could get a lot from.
One of the activities in the book is actually baking bread, and I really wanted to include that because I think a lot of people have been baking bread, haven't they, through lockdown? Shortage of flour and all this, but actually realise how lovely it is to pummel that bread and get the tension out of your body, the smell of it when it's cooking, the pride you feel in going, what I made, that's great for your self-esteem. And just something that simple, if we can encourage our kids to do, to get off the frenzied screens for just 15 minutes and do something like that and realise that feels amazing. You've given them something. It's like a little gift. You've given them a little tool to help them relax, and I, for ourselves as adults, we need to give ourselves as many of those little tools and tips and techniques as we can. I started doing Tai Chi during lockdown because I got a bad shoulder. Yeah, I got a bad shoulder. Couldn't get in to see the physio. Had a session or two online, but it was expensive. And I thought, I'm going to have a little look on YouTube and have a go at Tai Chi. Oh my goodness, I love it. It's so flowy.
Yeah.
So it doesn't run. And the video is like 10 minutes long. So I did it every morning. And now I'm doing a little diploma in Tai Chi just online because I love it. And actually, my kids would often just kind of wander along and go, copy me.
Yeah.
And then join in because it was so short. And I feel like it's given us all a little gift. We know what will calm us down. It's so calming. I will send you a link there. It's so calming. Anything you can bring in your life that slows your heartbeat down, lets your brain settle, will help you think more clearly. And that's the key to relaxing. That's why relaxing matters so much, because when your brain calms down, you can think more clearly about how you're going to solve what is actually wrong. So it's not throwing those feelings away. Those feelings really matter. But when you're overwhelmed with them, you can't think clearly. So it's letting your brain settle and then looking again at what made you angry or upset or cross or stressed, and thinking, right, what can I do about it? So it's about moving kids to that place more quickly rather than just falling apart. Because what happens, poor kids, something will upset them at school, for example. They come home and they're stropping about because it's leaking out of them everywhere. And then we tell them off. We tell them off for their behaviour.
And we add
so
to
they're
it.
getting a double, they're getting a double whammy, aren't they? Whereas actually, if we could help them calm down first, and if they could calm themselves down first, they'd be able to say, this is what went wrong today. And you've got a chance of helping them, and they've got a chance of helping themselves. So it's getting that little block in there before it all comes out as an outburst of behaviour.
Yeah. Oh gosh, I wish your book was around a couple of years ago. But
well, it's interesting, Lynn, isn't it? When I write these books, obviously do quite a lot of research about things that I don't know that much about to start with. Perhaps just a little idea I've had or a thought, and then I read a bit more about it. I think, gosh, I wish I knew that, you know? And I think that's the thing, isn't it? You learn all the time as parents. Navigating the teen years now throws up a whole host of new issues, and having to take a step away. I'm realising that I can't be as engaged as I was, because independence is important. It's all learning process, isn't it? But it's being open to learning. Like you say, you're very open to ideas. And it's great to be open to ideas, because some you'll think, no, that didn't work. But sometimes they'll really resonate, and you'll think, that's going to change my life, or that's going to really help me. And that's what we want to do for kids, give them loads of ideas until they find one that works for them. I mean, I've been to yoga. Oh my goodness, Lynn, I can't do yoga.
Oh, I love yoga.
But my brain, you know, I have this busy brain, and I'm thinking, come on. When I go for a massage, I lie there and I hate it. The second they say, we're going to leave for a few minutes now to relax, I'm like, no, I've got things to do, come on. But if I'm doing something like gardening that's very active, but still very centering and focused, I can calm down. But my body has to be in action. So some things work for some and some for another. But massage, haircuts and yoga don't work for me.
That's so funny. I get my nails done.
I can't bear that either. I can't bear it. I'm like, just do it quick. They take forever, don't they? 30 minutes. I'm like, come on.
But where I go, I mean, there's screens up everywhere anyway, and you're all wearing a mask, so it's pretty bad for communication anyway. But no words are said where I go, and I love just sitting there for half an hour. I can't touch my phone because obviously my nails are being done, and I just sit there for half an hour and I just do nothing. I say nothing. I mean, obviously my mind's turning over a million times, but it's just nice to just sit there and, you know, because I'm probably addicted to my phone like the rest of the world.
Well, aren't we all?
Yeah. But what I was gonna talk to you about coping mechanisms, and healthy coping mechanisms and non-healthy, because I think, I mean, I've done a lot of exploration in this probably over the last sort of 4 or 5 years is when I've really started to understand it. But I've always been, and it comes from habits that I've learned as a child, and I've just never dealt with them as an adult. So I've always been an emotional spender.
Right.
So ironic that I'm now a personal finance expert, and but I think that just adds to the gravitas of being able to talk about it, because I can be real.
Absolutely.
But also an emotional eater. Spending and eating are actually very similar. No matter what the emotion is, anger, sadness, happiness, nervousness, the reaction was always to eat or spend. Drinking, it's never really been an issue, but I wasn't doing enough of the healthy coping strategies in my life. And what I've learned over the past few years is go out for a walk, go for a run, colour something in, make something, or make some food thing that, you know, where you have to chop up a lot of vegetables. But there are so many healthy coping mechanisms out there, just to breathe, calm yourself down, don't just go and spend 100 quid on something you don't need. So I just think getting those kind of behaviours into children, it's, gosh, you're potentially like saving a generation of all those issues that come out later in life.
Wouldn't that be lovely? That would be so lovely, wouldn't it? Yeah.
That's it. It's so impactful what you're doing. It really is.
I've never understood why schools say, you know, they have all these lessons, don't they, in primary school, learning about, say, I remember doing projects on Holland and things like that. And you know, just an hour or two a week. I know they do more now than they ever did, but teaching resilience skills would be so helpful, wouldn't it? It'd be so helpful. Yeah. Or even just, you know, 20 minutes after lunch each day to do a bit of Tai Chi or a bit of mindfulness exercise. It can be fun. It doesn't have to all be serious or boring or uniform. Yeah. It could be mixed up and done, but just, let's give our kids what they need. Because you know, Lynn, as well as I do, what you learn in school, of course it's useful, but essentially your life is about the choices you make, isn't it? It's about the choice you make in your relationships, in your work, the friendships you have, the how you take care of your own body and your own mind. They're the things that really, really matter. And if we can give our kids the tools to make healthy choices, like you say, rather than go after that quick hit of dopamine, because kids do it with their games, don't they? They want that buzz, they want that quick fix. And as adults, you're right, I'm the same. Food, people do it with shopping, they even call it retail therapy, don't they? Because we realise that hit of dopamine does make you feel good, but the problem is it's so short-lived and it leads to death. The food tastes good, but it leads to you being overweight, whatever. It's not the healthy solution, is it? So the more tools we can give our kids to make great choices, but I think to make great choices you need a clear mind, and that's why the book's about being calm. It's to get past that fear or the anger or the worry that clouds your mind and lead you to making rash choices that aren't in your best interest. So
I assume you've read the Chimp Paradox and, you know, Dr. Steve Peters' theories. Have you?
No.
I haven't got a book.
Tell me about it.
So it's this, I think he did a presentation when I was at HSBC or EE, one of those big companies. So it's a theory that a lot of people have come up with, but in your brain, you've got the chimp that sits at the front, who is the emotional outburst of any kind of situation that happens. The chimp takes over and is like, right, no, I'm going to respond in an angry way. I'm going to run away. I'm going to fight. I'm going to fly, or I'm going to freeze. And that's the sole chimp reaction. But the sort of theory in the book is actually getting in control of that chimp. Yeah. So it's a similar sort of psychological theory to what you're talking about, but he's a famous sports psychologist. So he's at the moment, he helps out Ronnie O'Sullivan, who is a snooker player, if you don't know that. He's the best snooker player in the world, but he's had a lot of issues with losing the plot.
Right. Oh, that's interesting, isn't it? So because when you're reactive, you're not coming from your best potential place. I was reading the other day that apparently if you think positively and clearly, you're 23% more intelligent. Isn't that interesting? Wow. 23% more intelligent than if you're in your emotional state. That's quite big, isn't it?
That's
so just giving yourself So giving yourself 5-10 minutes just to calm down, however you do it, before you react, you're going to be so much smarter than what you do. Which also part of the book talks about the negativity bias. And I think this is really interesting. As a parent, if you tell your child off, even if you've been to the seaside for the day and had a great time, what they remember is that you told them off. The same as school. If one thing goes wrong, the day can have been great, but that's what they think about. And they believe this is because of, in caveman times, unless you looked for danger, you were going to get eaten. So we are always primed to look for what's wrong, all of us, you know, and that our brain, that's naturally the state it is. It has a negativity bias. We look for what's wrong, who's being mean about us, what's been said, and we focus on that. But of course, our brains are malleable. Neuroplasticity tells us we can grow and change and develop our brains all the time. So we need to work with our kids on positivity, not to get rid of negative feelings, but because they don't always see it. They don't always see so much is going well. There's a really famous experiment in education where a teacher handed out a sheet of blank paper and it had a splat in the middle, not a big one, but an ink splat in the middle. And she said to the kids, I want you to write about this piece of paper and what it can do and what it means to you, whatever you like, write about the paper. Every single child wrote about the splat and how it spoiled the piece of paper. And none of them wrote about the whole rest of the sheet that could have had drawings on or writing on or been used to make a paper airplane. None of them did. They focused on what was wrong, what had spoilt it. And actually, it was only a tiny part of this whole potential, you know? And we need to teach our kids to see the rest of the page first. That's got to see that as well. And that's not saying, just think positively, forget what's wrong. It's saying, let's give some real focus to everything that's right and everything you can do and everything that you've got to be grateful for, because that's really, really massive. And that splat needs to be put in its place. It's only a little bit, you know, and we need to model that. So when we need to talk to them about their day at school, it needs to be, tell me what made you laugh today, you know, what's been great about today, to really give that focus to the good stuff too.
Oh gosh, I feel like you're teaching me so much in this podcast.
It's interesting,
everybody listening.
I that really stayed with me, that experiment. I think it's fascinating, don't you?
Yeah.
Because I would have seen the splat too, but now I purposely try and see the bigger page. And if I have a day where one thing goes wrong, make myself look at what went right.
So the power of something that I've been doing for years now is like three positive things. So every single day, it's wherever I write it, in a journal or an Instagram or wherever, it's just force out 3 positive things, because some days are just awful. But you can always find, even if it's I ate some vegetables at lunchtime, you know, even if it's that kind of, it's forcing the positivity out, doesn't it? Because it really changes your mindset when you have that positive rather than negative mindset.
Definitely. There's a chap called Paul Dolan, and he wrote a book called Happiness by Design, I think it's called. And he flips that on its head. It's interesting. And he says at the start of each day, you should write a list of 3 or 4 things you're going to do that will make you happy. So rather than waiting till the end of the day thinking what made me happy, try and do it at the start of the day and write yourself a little list of what's going to make you happy today and purposely put those things in your life. And he says then that way you're taking control and you're designing your own happy life. Isn't that a good idea?
That is a really good idea.
Gratitude is an interesting thing, that when they've done studies on people who express their gratitude, as you're saying you do, you know, by writing on Instagram, whatever, you're expressing it on, not just keep it inside, just saying thank you to the universe or your friend or whoever. Apparently it reduces your cortisol levels in your body significantly by about a quarter, because you're expressing it. Because in expressing it, you're reliving that good stuff. So you ate those vegetables at lunch and you probably thought then, hey, I'm being really healthy and taking care of my body. And you had a little buzz of good feeling about that. But by expressing gratitude, you're reliving it and restating it. And so, your cortisol levels reduce by a quarter when you express gratitude. So if we can give our kids just that gift, that's pretty amazing, isn't it?
Yeah. Oh, you're such a font of knowledge. I love it. I can't wait for my children to see your new book. So I've obviously got a copy of Happy here. I've given a copy of Happy to primary school, and I'll do the same with Calm, because I think it's a resource that schools could make a lot out of. And I know my primary school is really open to having all sorts of resources. They've got a willow room, which is where you go to like chill out. But they only tend to do that with children that need the help. So because of what my kids have gone through this year, they've got access to it. But
that's great.
It's amazing. So how do people find the book?
Well, it's on Amazon. It's on Amazon now as an ebook, and out in paperback in September. So by the time this is out, it'll be available to buy. And it's also be at Waterstones and other bookshops, Backwell's and places like that. Yeah. So it's exciting, and it's really nice to have your ideas out there in the world being used. So that feels really nice to me personally, and I hope that it just makes a difference. On Instagram a couple of days ago, somebody shared a picture of their child's hospital bag, and she was 6 years old, and she was taking into hospital with her a happiness collage she'd made from the Create Your Own Happy book. And it really properly touched my heart.
Oh my gosh,
that she was taking with her all the things that made her feel happy into a situation that was going to be difficult. I thought, isn't that fabulous that she's thought to do that, to take her happiness with her? I thought it was lovely. And then last year, one child went to World Book Day wearing a t-shirt with a smile on and holding our little happiness book. And honestly, I was blown away. I just thought, isn't that the cutest?
That's amazing.
So just, you must know this yourself. When you've written a book and put your heart and soul into it, the thought that you can help somebody make a real difference to their life, you know, you're going to help people really transform their finances with your book, and really think, you know what, I can get hold of this, because people can feel overwhelmed by money problems, can't they? They can feel that they'll never get out of it. There's no chance, they're stuck. It's a mess. You're giving them those tools to change their life, and it is such a lovely feeling, isn't it, that you're contributing in that.
It's so empowering. And like I get, I'm sure like you do, I get a lot of messages from people, but most of the messages I get are not, oh, I'm in crisis, I don't know what to do. It's actually messages saying, I've read this that you've written, I've read your book, and now I know how to plan my way out of it.
Fabulous.
It's just the most amazing feeling ever, isn't it? It's almost like it's the top of Maslow's hierarchy of needs. It's that self-actualization of, wow, I'm actually inspiring somebody to make a positive change.
It's lovely. It's like getting the gift you've given right back at you, isn't it? It's just wonderful. It's just amazing. So it's basically why we do what we do, right? Yeah, definitely. And I think as well, when you've got kids and you are home based rather than being out there doing direct work and you're writing, it's really nice to know you're still able to connect with people. You still are making a difference in the larger wider world, isn't it? Yeah. Oh, I'm so happy for you, and everybody needs to go and buy Becky's books, but Create Your Own Calm is the most recent book, but Create Your Own Happy is one of them as well. All on Amazon. And also you've got so your Instagram account that you're using is Emotionally Healthy Kids. Emotionally Healthy Kids. Yeah. And you've got a podcast as well where you're talking about different issues relating to resilience. My recent podcast was on helping kids with back to school anxiety and that kind of thing. Talk about whatever's current really, but general emotional issues and kids. Just 10 minutes. I'm not as good as you. I haven't figured out how to interview people yet. It's very new, my podcast, just me chatting, but I will be back to interview you at some point, Lynn. When I test it all out. I started off podcast. Well, I started off on a radio show. Do you remember, like a few years ago, I had a radio show on a local radio station. But the problem with that was they owned all the content, and it was all branded under their brand. And I was like, but I'm the one with all the doing all the work, and doing all the work and not being paid for it. So I moved away from it, and then I set up by myself. But I started off doing it by myself. And then once you get really confident and really good at it, and you know that you can rabbit on for 10, 20 minutes by yourself, then it's a natural step to get other people in. And I absolutely adore interviewing people, because this isn't an interview, right? This is just a chat. It's a chat, yeah. Like, I've asked you probably one question, it just flows. So that's like, I take Brené Brown as my inspiration of how to interview people. She's an incredible interviewer, like American shame psychologist. So she's really good at interviewing people. So one day I want to be interviewed by Brené Brown. There, I've said it out loud. That'd be fantastic. I'd come along for that. Yeah. Oh, well, it was so amazing to talk to you. I will end it, because we could talk for hours, but people won't listen for hours. But yeah, thank you, and good luck with the book launch. Thank you very much.
Right, I shall stop, but stay there.